Hello again, and a warm welcome back. I hope this video finds you in good health. During the last video, we discussed Silent Hill 2 art director Masahiro Ito, the creator of the iconic enigmatic Pyramid Head monster. Therein I would highlight some interesting familial connections that Mr. Ito has to those who were persecuted during the Holocaust, a subject that he seems to have more than just a passing interest in. We then looked at Mr. Ito's all-time favourite artist, the famed surrealist artist Francis Bacon, as I would highlight how Mr. Bacon had also been influenced by his time living in pre-war Germany, and later reflections on the crimes committed during the Holocaust. Again, all of this leans into my earlier controversial theory that not only are there references to the Holocaust to be found in Silent Hill, but also that Pyramid Head, the franchise's most iconic monster, is possibly an artistic metaphor for the Nazi butchers who had earlier perpetrated the Holocaust. During this video, we're going to be looking at some other Holocaust-related art so that I can help you understand that the Holocaust is in fact one of the world's most popular subjects for artistic reinterpretations. We will look at how march in time and changing technology has affected the ways in which we consume stories relating to the Holocaust, including several video games that reference this subject. This will include one that famed Silent Hill sound director Akira Yamaoka had come to work upon. The company that produced that game later worked with Mr. Yamaoka and Mr. Ito on the remake of Silent Hill 2. Okay, let's go. So, I suppose the best place to start with discussing Holocaust-related art is to begin with those pieces which were created by the actual survivors and victims of the tragedy. Several had taken to painting, sketching or drawing the conditions that they saw around them, or the things that they'd been forced to leave behind in their previous life. Here you can see an entire wall of Holocaust-related art on display at the Jewish Ghetto Museum in the Czech town of Terezín, a former ghetto for the Czech Jews who had earlier been deported from the capital city, Prague. We will come back to discuss the Nazi occupation of Prague during a later video, because there are possible deliberate references to this place in Silent Hill 2. It's also worth mentioning here that some of these pieces were shockingly requested by the Nazi guards, and others, which had been kept hidden during the war, now serve as lasting testimony to the awful crimes once perpetrated here in Terezín. Elsewhere, we later came to see reflections of the horrific crimes committed during the Holocaust through the shocking drawings of surrealist artist and Holocaust survivor David Oller, a former Sonderkommando at the Auschwitz-Birkenau crematoriums. Here you can see Mr. Oller frequently depicting the Nazis as monsters from beyond the pale. This controversial viewpoint of depicting the Nazis as grotesque inhuman monsters is something that we'll return to discuss during a later video, but just know for now that it's an extremely popular trope, especially within the horror genre. Aside from paintings and drawings, we would also come to see surrealist sculptures from Holocaust survivors Tamara Duell and Samuel Willenberg, who had earlier been imprisoned at the notorious Treblinka death camp located near the Polish capital Warsaw. As time went by, and artistic interpretations of the Holocaust had started to come from second-hand sources, by which I mean the artists were not directly involved in the events that they were reflecting upon, we'd started to see a stark change away from perhaps more traditional art forms, paintings, drawings, sculptures, etc., towards more commercial mediums, such as movies and music, for example. Regarding music, it is worth noting here that over the past 50 years or so, we've seen some of the world's best-selling bands using the tragedy of the Holocaust for artistic inspiration, including Joy Division, Pink Floyd, Slayer, Linkin Park, Disturbed, Avenged Sevenfold, and German rock giants Rammstein, among others. The Holocaust has also proved a popular topic in the punk genre, of course, inspiring artists such as my favourite band, Manic Street Preachers, Dead Kennedys, Sex Pistols, and fellow British rockers, The Boys. During this period, we have also seen several movies that remember the Holocaust. Some of these would be directed by Holocaust survivors, such as the legendary Nazi hunter Simon Wiesenthal, whilst others would highlight the stories of other prominent historical figures, such as Steven Spielberg's 1993 Oscar-winning epic Schindler's List, which of course had chronicled the events of how the former Nazi spy Oskar Schindler would go on to save hundreds of Jews from deportation to the death camps by employing them at his enamelware factory in Krakow. Elsewhere, we would also come to see controversial movies such as The Boy in the Striped Pyjamas, which would use artistic license to reimagine the crimes of the Holocaust as inspiration for a made-up story. It is worth noting that the 1990s and early 2000s were rife with Holocaust-related media, owing much to the 50th anniversary of the liberation of the camps and the dissolution of the former Soviet Union, which would allow previously hidden information to arise. The secretive Soviets had earlier liberated many of the death camps, including Auschwitz, of course. Silent Hill 2 and Silent Hill 3 would also release during this time. Unsurprisingly here, the Holocaust continues to inspire art well into the 21st century. Several of the bands previously mentioned are active today, and we continue to see directors leaning into the tragedy to make their latest blockbuster. But these are not the only forms of art that are popular today. The movie industry, over the last decade or so, has largely given way to streaming services, such as Netflix or Prime Video, etc., where we can see many reinterpretations of the crimes and legacy of the tragedy. Many of these shows would use a lot of artistic license by creating stories that evoke disdain towards the Nazis, such as the TV adaptation of Philip K. Dick's popular alternate history novel The Man in the High Castle, in which the Nazis had won the war and proceeded to occupy America. I'm not so sure that it wasn't intended as satire after all. In addition to this, we also have Al Pacino's popular show Hunters, where we see a ragtag crew of anti-fascists hunting down those pesky runaway Nazis. We'll come back to this another time because there are possible references to this at Brookhaven Hospital in Silent Hill 2. Finally, for example, here we also have Season 2 of American Horror Story, where we'll see the Briarcliff Asylum being run by a coalition of the Catholic Church and a former Nazi camp doctor. The asylum here is a probable artistic metaphor for the United States. You know, the place where crazy people live under the oppressive thumb of Christo-fascism. And finally, paintings, drawings, sculptures, movies, TV shows and music aren't the only art forms that use the Holocaust as inspiration. With changing technology over the last 30 years or so, we're now able to actively take part in some of these stories thanks to the video game industry. Whilst it might sound controversial at first to make video games that reference the tragedy of the Holocaust, we must come to understand that the video game industry is by far the most lucrative one to be making art for. Recent valuations would suggest it's worth many more times than the movie and music industry combined. So of course, I'm sure you're eager to hear of a few examples of how the Nazis and the Holocaust have been portrayed in the video game industry. Let us begin with the obvious ones first. Many of the games depicting the Nazis, especially within the horror genre, like to use the popular trope of controversially turning them into metaphorical monsters, such as those seen in Call of Duty Zombies and Zombie Army Trilogy. Recall what I'd said earlier about Pyramid Head being a metaphorical depiction of a Nazi butcher. Talking of Pyramid Head and his attire, the next example I want to highlight here is the popular 2014 release Wolfenstein: The New Order, where we find ourselves imprisoned in the fictional Belitsa concentration camp. Here we're captured by the camp's doctor, who then subjects us to a tortuous interrogation. Did you notice his clothing? Haven't we seen this somewhere before? Jackboots? Apron? Scissors? Knife? Peaked cap? In addition, returning to the Call of Duty franchise, we also have the epilogue to Call of Duty World War II, where we come to investigate a former Nazi labour camp. Here, the game's artists had chosen not to show us anything too graphic, as was seen in real life, again highlighting the ongoing controversy of what is palatable in Holocaust art. There are of course additional games that reference the Holocaust, including the video game adaptation of Harlan Ellison's novel I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, and possibly even Little Nightmares, though this has been denied by the game's creators, probably due to the controversy that it would create. There is one final example I want to look at here, and I appreciate that we're close to breaking the scheduled 10 minutes. The final example that I have chosen here has a direct link to the Silent Hill franchise. Two, in fact. Firstly, let's head back to 2021 and to the release of Bloober Team's paranormal horror masterpiece, The Medium. Herein, Bloober Team, who are based in the Polish city of Krakow, had teamed up with the former famed Silent Hill sound director Akira Yamaoka to create a story of personal and societal tragedy, one that was inspired by both the art of Polish surrealist artist Stanisław Beksinski and the 20th century history of the city of Krakow, a place that had suffered terribly under both Nazi and Soviet occupations. During the opening of the game's story, the protagonist Marianne takes a motorbike ride from Krakow to visit the fictional Neva resort where a historical massacre had happened, a probable artistic reinterpretation for the trip that many of us have taken from Krakow to visit the Auschwitz Memorial. Upon arrival at the resort, after passing through the security barrier that has a message above the gate, symbolic perhaps of the infamous Arbeit macht frei gate at the Stammlager, we will come to investigate the historic Neva massacre via the reading of old documents, rummaging through abandoned suitcases, and interacting with the ghosts of the past. Later, we will come to be pursued by a monster known as the Maw. This creature, probably artistically based upon Azrael, the mythic angel of death, is likely an artistic metaphor for one of the most infamous perpetrators of the Holocaust, Auschwitz's very own angel of death, Dr. Josef Mengele. We will come back to discuss Dr. Mengele at a later date, as there may be references to him in both Silent Hill 2 and Silent Hill 3, but note here that Bloober Team would later come to work again with Silent Hill sound director Akira Yamaoka and Silent Hill art director Masahiro Ito on the 2024 remake of Silent Hill 2. Why am I not surprised here? Could it be because both games possibly share the same historic inspirations? Okay, that's it for this video. Sorry if it ran on longer than ideally expected. Hopefully it won't become a trend. During the next video, we're going to be looking at why a group of Japanese artists may have chosen to make references to the Holocaust. After all, what connection does Japan have to events that took place some 5,000 miles away? The answers may surprise you. We'll also look at the events of World War II in Japan and look at how the horrific bombing of one of their major cities by the US Air Force may have come to inspire the naming of the Silent Hill video game franchise. I'll see you there, hopefully. Take care for now, thanks for watching, goodbye.